Today on the Day Left It podcast, I'll be speaking with Mike Cameron, the man who is helping to redefine the word bass. Mike shares his tragic story of the murder of his girlfriend Colleen by an ex-boyfriend, and how this tragic loss has changed his life forever and inspired him to help men reconnect with their emotions and process them positively. What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. I hope everybody is doing well. We have an amazing and powerful show for you today. We are going to be talking about the topic of masculinity and emotional intelligence within men. And I have a guest with me who I feel his story embodies, or should at least be a champion to what is a need for men to become more emotionally alert and to be aware of their own feelings and emotions and mindful. I am joined, and I am so lucky to have with me Mr. Mike Cameron. Mike, how are you today?
I am doing fantastic, my friend. I am so thrilled to be here. And yeah, I love that intro, and you captured that well. I use the term emotionally connected. We need more
Awesome.
Men to be emotionally connected.
Very, very true. Mike, let's get right into this, because I don't want to waste time, because this is so much to talk about. I'm actually very excited about this. Let's start a little bit with your story. You have something that I see that is amazing, which is make beautiful shit happen. Tell us about where that comes from.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, let me tell the sort of the origin story, sort of originally. And I mean, again, I can go back way back when, in my sales career, I started sort of investigating this impact that emotion has on human behavior, and as a sales guy, looked how to build that emotional connection between myself and my customers in an effort to be a better sales guy. Eventually moved into leadership and recognized early that the more I can tap into my team's emotions, the more productivity I could get out of them. And, we just had a much more cohesive group. Mm-hmm. And, so I spent 20 years sort of working on that. I've spoken professionally in the context of sales and leadership around that component. And then in October of 2015, the whole concept of really masculinity and emotional connection for men really came to a head for me. My girlfriend at the time stayed overnight at my place. She woke up, she's a yoga instructor, an artist, a potter, a videographer, a photographer. She had to teach yoga Friday morning at 6 a.m. So she got up at my place around 5, got dressed, got ready to go, came around to my side of the bed, gave me a kiss, said goodbye. I said, have fun at yoga. And off she went. I rolled over, went back to sleep, and woke up around, 6:30, 7 o'clock, went downstairs, grabbed some breakfast, shot her a text at about 10 after 7, as was our custom, and said, hey, how was yoga? And I got no response. And not a big deal. She is not a huge talker, but she's an incredible listener. And as a result, often got into these deep, long, drawn-out conversations with her yoga students after class. So not out of character for her to be tied up.
Okay.
Day goes on, morning goes on, I head off to work. I text again, no response. I phone, no answer, goes to voicemail. Now I'm starting to get that sort of feeling like, something's just not sitting right.
Right.
Eventually, I had a couple of business meetings that morning. Eventually, I ended up taking some clients out for lunch and still hadn't heard from her. And again, now I'm starting to get quite worried and just feeling like something's off. So I walked into the restaurant, and as we walked into the restaurant, the hostess was about to seat us. My phone rang, and I looked at it, and it was a blocked number. And I answered it. The voice on the other end of the line said, "Is this Mike Cameron?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "This is Constable so-and-so." And I don't remember his name, and my heart just sank. And immediately I said, "Is she okay?" And he says, "Where are you?" And I pretty much yelled into the phone. I said, "Is she okay?" And he said, "Where are you? We're at your house. We're coming to you." So I turned around, I walked out of the restaurant, told him where I was, and waited, I don't know, stood on the curb for 5 to 7 minutes. And this unmarked police car pulls up across the street. This badass, burly looking plainclothes cop gets out of the car. He's got a gun on his hip, badge around his neck. You know the story. Right. He crosses the street, meets me midway, and after identifying who I was, he just looked me in the eye and he said 3 words to me that would change my life. He looked at me and he said, "Colleen is dead. Shot and killed by an ex-boyfriend who subsequently took his own life." And at that moment, it was just this whirlwind of, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. This can't be real. This kind of thing doesn't happen in real life. This is the kind of thing that you see in the movies on TV. This can't be happening. This was a man that made a decision with very permanent consequences based on a very temporary emotion. Right. And, you know, for me, when I looked at sort of after the dust settled and, you know, I had lots of well-meaning friends surround me, pat me on the back, and, you know, without fail, they'd shake their head and they'd say, "Something's got to change, Mike, something's got to change." And that really became my mantra for quite some time. Every morning I'd wake up, I'd look in the mirror, I'd shake my head and I'd say, "Something's got to change. Something's got to change." And then, you know, at one point I added 3 words to that really shifted everything for me. And I looked in that mirror and I said, "Something's got to change." And then I added, "Maybe it's you."
Mike walks us through the change that altered and helped redefine his life, and is now helping him to change the lives of other men struggling with how to get in touch with their own emotions. Stay tuned. De La Fit Podcast is sponsored by Mountain Made CBD. Mountain Made is changing the CBD game by offering a line of high-dose CBD tablets at an affordable price. Their products are THC-free and third-party tested for accuracy, cleanliness, and potency. Their products, which ship nationwide, include Build for CBD saturation, Boost for precision titration, Recovery for rest and rehab. With 9 years experience in hemp and fitness, Mountain Made's founders are focused on creating a quality product to help those who live an activated lifestyle. Check out www.mountainmade.life to find out more about how their products can help you crush life. Feeling a little fuzzy, buddy? Maybe you need to drink a little bit more water. Your brain is about 75% water. When your brain is functioning on a full reserve of water, you will be able to think faster, be more focused, and experience greater clarity and creativity. So the simple solution? Drink more water. Welcome back to the De La Fit Podcast. We are continuing our interview with Mike Cameron. Mike explains how his girlfriend Colleen's murder changed his life forever, and how the epiphany of self-change gave birth to the tools that helped him cope with her loss, tools he now teaches other men to use in order to reconnect with their emotions and give themselves permission to feel.
Maybe you're the one that needs to do something about this. And so I looked at sort of my areas of expertise where I could make an impact in the domestic violence arena. And, you know, I had lots of well-meaning friends that wanted me to go after the justice system. She'd done all the right things, had the right paperwork filed, had the restraining order, done all the right things from a system standpoint. And certainly the justice system let her down. There's no question.
Right.
But when I looked at going after the justice system, to me, that just seemed like, we're talking about slapping a Band-Aid on a ruptured jugular. We're dealing with the symptom, not the cause. So again, I started looking at, okay, well, how do we actually address the root cause? And maybe the better question is, how do we prevent men like this from existing in the first place? How do we prevent men from getting to a point where they're so emotionally disconnected, they can take somebody else's life? And, again, when I look back at my 25-year professional career, and I've done very well from a business context, I've always been a top performer in any of the sales arenas I was in.
Right.
I founded and built a multi-million-dollar business, which I eventually sold. So, I've done all those things, and I've really done it on the strength, I believe, of my understanding of that emotional intelligence piece, that we make decisions based on emotion. And if we don't understand the underlying emotions that drive the decisions we make, we have zero chance of living a purposeful and fully awakened existence. So after that, again, when I looked at how can I make an impact in this arena, I looked at the root cause. Like I said, again, is this emotional disconnection. And if we can teach men to reconnect with their emotional selves, not only does that make this violence problem go away, but look at statistics. Men everywhere are hurting. We've got
that's true.
75% of all suicides are men. A vast majority of all violent crimes are men. So, and again, this isn't about finger wagging and playing that blame and shame game, but there's a reason for this. There's a reason that this is happening. And so I come back to the fact that, again, emotionally connected men don't kill people. They don't kill themselves. They don't traffic women. They don't rob banks. They make better partners. They make better fathers. They make better citizens. They make better human beings, and they're happier. So that's kind of the direction that I've gone. Like I said, I sold my business in December of 2019 so that I could focus on this full time. I founded an organization about a year and a half ago called Connected Men. And it's really just about creating safe spaces for guys to get together and literally practice feeling. You're in the fitness arena, and we talked about this a little bit, right? So it's pretty widely accepted as a dude. If I want to get fit and strong and build my muscles, I go to the gym once or twice a week. Yet when it comes to my emotional well-being, my emotional fitness, what do? The answer for most guys is jack shit. We don't do anything.
Very
so
true.
I really wanted to start that conversation and really create that space where we can go have that emotional workout once a week. So we created, again, I've created a framework that I base on the acronym SOAR. So slow down, open up, accept, and reconnect with our emotional selves. And we can dive more into that as we continue the conversation. But, really, I've taken that framework and created an environment where guys can just show up and literally practice feeling. It's very intentional. When we get together, we have a number of different themes that we go through. Some are somewhat educational, but really it's just about creating space. It's not about fixing anything. It's just about practicing. And in fact, it's about practicing not fixing things. Because I think as men, we want to fix things. You and I are talking about a problem. So our natural instinct is, okay, what's the solution? What's the solution? What's the solution? And sometimes the solution for shitty feelings is just to sit with them and allow them to be and not trying to fix them. And in fact, the more we try and fix them, the more we fight them, the longer they stay, the worse they show up. We try and suppress and bury and avoid. And again, I come back to that, I had so many people surround me and tell me to be strong.
Right.
But while I love them for who they are and their intention, it just saddens me that our Western culture's version of be strong means to man up, suppress, avoid, remain
Right.
stoic in the face of these emotions. Because I tell you what, I didn't want to stay strong. I wanted to curl up into a little ball and I wanted to cry like a fucking baby. That's what I wanted to do.
Hello, digital family. My name is Thorn and I'm part of the Delafit team. We certainly hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far, and we'll be getting right back to it in just a few. I just wanted to let you all know that you can go to our website, www.delafitpodcast.com, to learn more about us and our host, SunMoon Bey. You should also follow us on social media for all the latest information on future guests, show topics, and all of 360 degrees of fitness and health tips and information. On Facebook and Twitter, we're at Delafit Podcast, and on Instagram, we're at DE_LA_Fit Podcast. Thank you and have a wonderfully fit and healthy day.
Fitness is way more than protein shakes and barbell plates. Way more. Human beings are way more. You have COVID-19 out there. You have racism out there. Life. Doesn't it make sense that we have a fitness show that can help prepare us for these type of things? Because it's all connected. We're connected. De La Fit, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health.
As you should. I mean,
Absolutely.
Somebody you love has been taken.
Absolutely. And so just, again, giving men permission to feel, I think is huge. And we see it, I see it all over the place. When I've given that talk all over North America, and without fail, men come up to me afterwards, and there's this universal truth that guys just want to be okay with expressing themselves. One of the things we find when we do get together, especially in an initial group, is that there's this common theme of this weight guys are feeling. Like, no matter how much our partner is on side with us and we're equals and we all participate and provide to the household together, there's still this innate thing. And I don't know if you feel it. I'd be curious. You're a little younger than I am, but like, there's this overwhelming feeling of I have to be the provider, even though intellectually I know that my partner is an equal. They work, they provide to the household just as much as I do. I know that. Right. I'm okay with that. But there's still this weight, this feeling like I have to be the provider. And, we see it I live in northern Alberta, oil country in Canada. And, for the last, decade, 5 years at least, oil prices have been really suppressed. So, guys that, in 2006, 2007, were making, 150 grand a year, now are struggling to stay employed. And, it's about so much more than just the employment and the ability to provide financially. It's this, my identity is tied to what I do and what I bring in. And when that goes away, I'm screwed. If I don't have the emotional capacity to deal with that, that's a big problem. And that's what we see. Again, there's just this universal feeling of this giant weight of the world on shoulders. And it's so cool to watch that lift as, one guy says exactly what I'm talking about. Then the next guy's like, really? Because me too. I thought I was the only dude that was feeling that way.
Right.
Holy crap. And this weight gets lifted. So,
it's interesting. And I want to commend you for what you've created, that space that you have created for men to feel that, because ironically, I had a conversation with a good friend of mine. She called me last night and she was venting, and she was venting, about talking to another friend who took that role what you were saying as, he's like, okay, this is the problem. This is how it needs to be fixed. She said, I don't need you to fix it. I need you to listen and not try to fix it. And you're right. I think it's the natural, I should say, I think it's how we've been raised. Here's a problem. There's a solution. Fix it. Move on. It's simple, easy. There's a commercial that comes on all the time. I don't know if it comes on in Canada, but I think it's an insurance commercial. And a woman, she's got a nail in her forehead, and I always laugh at it, but she's just like, no, I don't want you to, do anything. I just want you
but there's a nail right in your head. Like if you just take that out.
and I laugh at that commercial so much, but I'm like, it's true. And and as they go in for the hug, he bites and pulls it out and spits out the nail. And it's like, but yeah, that's how we have. I would say we've been raised that we find the problem, we take care of it, and we move on. What is an emotional reconnection practice?
So again, that's using that framework, the SOAR, the slow down stuff. Because again, as guys, like I said, it's just about giving yourself permission to reconnect with your inner self, your true self. Okay. We tend to put on these masks, these facades of who we think the world expects us to show up as. So it's not a flick of the switch and we get back to who we truly are. It's a practice. And I use the word practice generously throughout all my work because I think that is so critical. And I tell people all the time, like, stop trying. Just stop trying, which may seem a little counterintuitive. I kind of feel like Bart Simpson, can't win, don't try.
Right.
But when I say stop trying, instead shift your vocabulary to practice. Because when we try something, it creates this pass-fail mentality. Oh, I tried that, it didn't work, I'm done. Whereas when we shift to practice, we know that when we practice something, it's like, okay, I got a little bit better today. Tomorrow I'll come back and I'll do it again. And I'll try again, and then I'll get a little bit better each and every day until ultimately, we continue to keep getting better and better and better at it. So that emotional reconnection piece is a practice. It's an ongoing thing. It's not I was successful. I tried it. I was successful. I'm reconnected. It's an ongoing practice. And I think that's really important. And that's something for me that I don't know that I recognize, because you kind of sometimes, or at least for me, I feel like I get there. I'm successful. I'm reconnected to my inner self. And then I stop the practice stuff. And of course, guess what happens? No different than the gym. I go to the gym for 2 years. I get super buff and tight. Well, guess what? If I stop going to the gym, I'm getting out of shape again. So that's why I call it a practice. The techniques is, and again, I did a lot of sort of what I would call the inner work when I left my ex-wife. So back in 2012, we split. And, at that time I found yoga, I found meditation. I did a lot of sort of that individual inner work, which I think is critical for everybody. But what I realized eventually was, and this was maybe even just 2 years ago, what I realized was while I've done all sort of that inner work on myself, the one thing I haven't been practicing is that vulnerability piece. Because by definition, you can't practice vulnerability alone.
True.
It takes two people. So this is why I created Connected Men, to create a space where we can practice vulnerability and I can open up to other guys. So again, the acronym SOAR, slow down. Just take that pause, take that 60 seconds. Take a breath. Practice the pause. And then the O, open up. And that's kind of twofold. First, open up to yourself. Be honest with what's coming up. Be open to what's coming up. Don't bury it. Don't suppress it. If it's pain, if it's fear, if it's anger, if it's rage, be open to it coming up. Because you can't just bury that shit. So the second part of being open is sharing that, telling you that, you know what, right now in this podcast, I'm a little bit nervous because I want to do this right. I want to do this well. So open up, share.
Right.
And again, once you get to that point where you're open to yourself. So again, the slowdown. So let's do that in the context of this podcast. Like, Mike, just take a breath. SunMoon, take a breath. Pause. Okay, open yourself up. What's coming up? And I usually start with the physical. So what am I feeling physically? Because as guys, we're pretty good at noticing that. Jaw's a little tight. Emotionally, what's that connected to? There's some excitement. There's some passion. There's a fire in my belly as I talk about this stuff. Energy.
Right.
And then accept the A piece of that. Sometimes when we've got these, what we would deem negative feelings, we don't accept them. We beat ourselves up like, Jesus, dude, I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't be feeling like this. I shouldn't be feeling sorry for myself because I got a roof over my head. I got food. My kids are great. I got a job. I got this. I got that. So why am I feeling? And you start beating yourself up because maybe feeling a little depressed right now. But I have no right to be depressed because I've got everything. And then we just start this spiral.
Salutations and proclamations. It's Philly's #1 son, aka the Body Alchemist, SunMoon Bey, host of the Day Love Fit podcast, letting you know that you can now tune in from some of your favorite platforms. That's right, iTunes lovers, Google Play Music listeners, and Spotify addicts. Simply to tune in, go to the search section in your favorite platform and type in Day Love Fit podcast. We haven't forgotten about you too, YouTube lovers or SoundCloud floaters. It's the same thing. Go to your favorite app or platform and type in the search menu, Day Love Fit Podcast.
So accept whatever's coming up. And that will allow you to reconnect with your emotional self, reconnect with your purpose. And the reason I use the term reconnect, again, you'll find for me, language is very deliberate. Mm-hmm. I use words by choice. Reconnect versus connect, because we weren't born emotionally disconnected. I don't remember. Do you have kids?
No, I have godchildren.
Okay, so if you've been around toddlers, you know that toddlers they have no problem expressing their emotions. We weren't born emotionally disconnected. We've been conditioned to become that way. So when we can slow down, open up, accept what's there, then we can really reconnect with who we truly are. And sometimes that means going back to that inner child and just revisiting that, taking the time to do that. And that, as a man, like, I really believe that's the answer to how we connect with our purpose.
You said something that's really interesting, whereas you said reconnecting to that inner child. Excuse me. I find it really interesting because I know coming up, and I'm from Philadelphia, the East Coast, and you were taught the old saying, as a child, you dealt with childish things, you played as a child, did all these things. Now that you're a man, you put away childish things. And a lot of times that seems to be our emotions. And even in our inner reaction with others, I can remember playing basketball. I'll never forget, I was on the basketball court. We were playing roughhouse, shooting, and I'll never forget a guy turned around and he deliberately elbowed me dead in my mouth. Boom, I'm bleeding. And I can remember inside, first thing is, it doesn't hurt. It's not there. Just go with it, and you take that. You take that, and it's almost like you become calloused. And the more that you do that throughout life, you become callous, and you think that you're really doing something. And then, at least for me, I had a smack in the face when I was sitting down with a girlfriend, and she told me, "You don't tell me anything." And I was like, what do you mean? I tell you all this stuff all the time. She's like, "You don't open up. You do not open up. And I'm just like, yeah, I open up. I'm like, I tell you, I love you. We hold. She's like, no, no. She said, if I ask you if something bothers you, the first thing that you say is, and Mike, I know you know what I'm about to say. Most men who are listening in right now, they know what I'm about to say. The classic response: I'm all right. I'm fine. I'm good. But inside, you're not. Right. You know, and it's amazing how you're saying the fact of that reconnection going back to childhood, because you're right. We are very expressive. If something hurts, you know, this hurts, this does, is this. There is a balance, I believe. How do we strike that balance? Because we of course we can't go along, you know, just at every moment sharing our feelings. I mean, I can imagine the guy on the football field getting hit. Oh, this really hurts. I don't know if it would work that way, but how do we strike that balance?
Well, and I think that's a great question. And I think it's less about sort of the expression of the emotion as it is an awareness of the emotion, because the problems arise when we're acting out of pain, we're acting out of anger, but we're not aware of it.
Right.
Because there is definitely a time where, because I'm not suggesting you should never be angry. I'm not suggesting you should never be hurt. You're going to be. But when that anger arises, and we see this a lot, because I mean, that anger is often the catalyst for change. So we often see this, you know, with sort of the social justice warrior type stuff, right? I'm incensed, I'm furious because X, Y, Z, you know, the police need to do more to stop domestic violence. They need to do more for whatever. Right. You know, that comes out of maybe some anger for sure, but it's about recognizing that anger and then making that choice what to do with it. And you're right, on the football field, when you get hurt or angry, it's not about having a tantrum and screaming or rolling around in pain. It is about acknowledging that, getting up, and using that to fuel you. Like, he just hurt me. I'm going to take this fucking ball and I'm going to run it down into the end zone. Right. That's what I'm going to do. So it's about channeling that. So I have this conversation a lot. It's not so much about, you know, when it's definitely not about not having the feelings. It's about recognizing them, acknowledging them, and then using them in a manner that befits who you want to be. You know, I come back to one of my favorite questions a friend of mine introduced me to was, what would the man I want to be do? So anytime you're faced with a situation, just, you know, again, I get cut off in traffic. I'm angry as hell. What would the man I want to be do? Well, the man I want to be would be patient. He would be kind. He wouldn't flip off that person. He'd just take a breath and he'd wait. And he'd say, you know what? That dude must be having a shittier day than me. He felt the need, right? So I find that extremely powerful. What would the man I want to be do in this situation? And then I try and do that.
We're running out of time. And I know we could talk about this till the cows come home. 3 tips that our listeners can take with them, that the men listening, that the women listening right now can share with their brothers, husbands, cousins, nephews, everybody. 3 tips.
So women, you need to allow your man to do this. That's one. So you need to, again, to your point, you talked about the scariness of it. And it's freaking scary. As a guy, it's scary to be seen or think you're going to be seen as weak. So women, we need your support. We need you to show us that we're not weak when we do this. Guys, the number one thing is, and I've said it a couple of times, practice the pause. Slow down. Take that breath. And then the third would just be to reach out, connect with somebody, open up, share, and you'll find that you're not alone. It's a magical thing that happens. And maybe one more would be intentional about this stuff. I'm not talking about, hey, bud, let's go for a beer and watch the game.
Right.
Like, you know what? I'm having a rough patch right now. Can we go sit down and I just need you to listen to me for a bit? Or flip side of that is observing that in somebody else. Hey, SunMoon, looks like you're struggling a little bit. Let's get together. Let's sit down and just shoot the shit. And I just want to be here to listen to you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to fix anything. I'm just going to listen to you. So sorry, that's more than 3. And
No, that's fine. That's perfect. Mike Cameron, everyone. Mike, thank you for coming to the show. I appreciate you sharing your experience, sharing your compelling tale, and just letting us be in and reconnect to our emotions. And to anybody out there that's listening, I would encourage you to reach out to Mike Cameron. Mike, we're in a social media world, so you know what I got to ask you. Please let people know where they can contact you, find more information about what it is that you do, and the amazing work that you're doing with people and with men and their emotions.
MikeCameron.ca, as in up in Canada. So MikeCameron.ca is the website. That's kind of the hub. Or Mike David Cameron on Facebook. I do daily. During COVID, I've been doing daily 8:30 Mountain Time Facebook Lives and just talking about some of these subjects. So it would be awesome to connect with you, or at Axiom Mike, AXIOMMIKE on Twitter and Instagram and all those.
And again, I encourage all of you, and Mike, I'm going to turn around right now to our fans that are listening and our listeners who are on Facebook right now. Please Google, YouTube, Mike Cameron. Take the time out. His story is amazing and powerful. I would implore you to check it out.
Redefining Badass. If you Google Redefining Badass TEDx, you'll find me.
Redefining Badass. And I'm telling you, this is truly a story you should not miss. Mike, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, man.
I appreciate you for coming.